So where does all of this go from here? That is the question sitting in every intelligence briefing room, every trading floor, every foreign ministry on earth right now. And the honest answer is nobody knows for certain. But the signals are clear enough to read if you know what to look for. The United States has 3 aircraft carrier groups within reach of the Persian Gulf region. That is not a coincidence. That is a message sent back to Tehran in the same language Iran used when it struck those tankers. The language of position power. Washington is not going to absorb this strike quietly. The political pressure inside America to respond firmly is enormous. Any administration that appears to do nothing after Iranian forces hit tankers linked to American supply chains will face brutal criticism at home, so some form of response is coming. The question is what form it takes. A direct military strike on Iranian assets is the option that terrifies everyone because nobody can confidently predict where that leads. Iran has missiles that can reach American bases across the entire region. It has proxy forces in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iraq that can activate simultaneously and turn a targeted exchange into a multi-front regional war overnight. This is why diplomacy, even quiet back-channel diplomacy that the public never hears about, is happening right now at incredible speed. Because the people in the rooms where these decisions get made understand something that does not always come through clearly in news headlines. A war between the United States and Iran would not be a short war. It would not be clean. It would not stay contained to the Persian Gulf. It would reshape the entire Middle East. It would send oil prices to levels not seen in modern history. It would trigger economic contractions in countries as far away as Japan, South Korea, Germany, and Brazil. It would create refugee flows that would dwarf anything Europe has dealt with in recent memory. The stakes are not just high, they're civilization level high. And every hour that passes without a diplomatic off-ramp being found is an hour closer to the kind of miscalculation that starts something nobody can stop. Iran is gambling that the pain it can inflict economically will force the world to negotiate. America is gambling that its military positioning will force Iran to back down. And somewhere in the middle of those two gambles are millions of ordinary people in Iraq, in Iran, in the Gulf states, and far beyond, who have no say in any of it and no shelter from the consequences. This story is far from over. The next 72 hours will be among the most consequential the Middle East has seen in years. Watch this space. Stay informed. Share this with someone who needs to understand what is really happening in the world right now. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because the follow-up to this story is going to be even bigger than what you just heard. The ground has shifted. The Middle East is no longer the same place it was just weeks ago. And right now, as these words are being spoken, American soldiers are on high alert. Bunkers are active. And the name of one man is being whispered in every war room from Washington to Tel Aviv. Iran has a new supreme leader, and he did not waste a single day before making the world feel his presence. This is not a drill. This is not a warning shot fired into the sea. United States military bases in the Middle East have come under fire, and all roads lead back to Tehran, to a man who just took the most powerful seat in the Islamic Republic, a man who spent decades preparing for exactly this moment. Now he has the throne, and it appears he wants to show the world what kind of ruler he is going to be. The question everyone is asking, from Pentagon generals to ordinary people watching their televisions at home, is this: has Iran just started something that cannot be stopped? Because what is happening right now is not small. It is not a skirmish. It is a signal, a loud, dangerous, deliberate signal sent to the United States of America and to every nation watching from the sidelines. And to understand why this is happening, why now, and what comes next, the full story must be told from the beginning. Because without the beginning, none of this makes sense. Stay right here. Do not move. Because this story is only getting started, and every single part of it will leave something heavy sitting in the chest. If this kind of news coverage is what is needed, raw, real, and straight to the point, then make sure to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that bell. Because what comes next in this story is something the mainstream media is not telling people the full truth about. To understand the man now sitting at the top of Iran, one must go back and look at who he is. Because this is not a politician who came from nowhere. This is not a man who stumbled into power by accident. Iran's new supreme leader was chosen carefully, quietly. And over many years, the people inside the system watched him, tested him, and decided he was the one who would carry the flag after Khamenei. And what they saw in him was not softness. What they saw was fire. He grew up inside the revolution. He breathed it. He served it. And the ideology that drives him is the same ideology that has driven Iran for over 40 years. That America is the great enemy, that Israel must be destroyed, and that Iran's power must spread across the region like a wave that cannot be stopped. But here is what makes this moment different from every other moment in recent history. The old supreme leader, Khamenei, was cautious. He played the long game. He poked and pushed, but he always kept one foot on the brakes. He understood that a direct war with America could finish the Islamic Republic forever. This new man does not appear to share that same caution. Within days of consolidating his grip on power, the machinery of Iranian influence was put into motion. A proxy forces, the armed groups that Iran has funded, trained, and directed across Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, began receiving new instructions, new weapons moved, new targets were identified, and then the strikes came. American bases, facilities housing real soldiers, real human beings far from their families, were hit. Rockets, drones, coordinated, deliberate, not random violence, but a carefully sent message written in fire and metal. The world held its breath. Washington went silent for a moment, and then the phone started ringing. When a United States military base gets hit, the response inside the American government is not calm. Rooms fill up fast, generals are pulled out of sleep, the president is and the clock starts ticking because America has never been a nation that absorbs attacks quietly for very long. But here is where the situation becomes more complicated than it looks on the surface. The attacks on the bases were not claimed openly by Iran. They never are. That is the game Tehran has mastered over decades. Use the proxies. Use the armed groups in other countries. Keep the fingerprints just blurry enough to create what diplomats call deniability. We did not do this. We do not control these groups. These are independent fighters with independent grievances. But nobody believes that, not anymore. American intelligence, Israeli intelligence, British intelligence, they all point in the same direction. The orders came from Tehran, the weapons came from Tehran, the money came from Tehran, and the timing coming so shortly after the new supreme leader took power, that is not a coincidence. That is a coronation gift to himself. He wanted the world to see strength from day one. He wanted his own people inside Iran to see that the revolution had not softened. He wanted the proxy forces across the region to know that the man now in charge is not going to pull back. He wanted Washington to feel something it has not felt in a while, genuine uncertainty about what comes next. And that uncertainty is dangerous, because when two heavily armed sides are staring at each other, and neither one is completely sure what the other will do next, the space for accidents becomes very, very small. Soldiers are sleeping with one eye open, commanders are waiting for orders, and the world is watching a situation that could go in any direction before the sun rises again. Here's what the world needs to understand about where all of this is heading. Iran's new supreme leader did not launch these attacks because he is reckless. He launched them because he has a strategy, a cold, calculated strategy that has been in development for years, waiting for the moment he finally held the power to execute it. The strategy is pressure without crossing the final line, push America, bleed America slowly, raise the cost of staying in the Middle East so high that eventually American forces pull back, remove American influence from the region piece by piece. And once that is done, once the Americans are gone, reshape the Middle East entirely around Iranian power. It is an ambitious plan, it is a dangerous plan, and so far, step by step, it has been moving forward. But plans built on pressure always carry one fatal risk. They depend on the other side continuing to absorb. They depend on restraint holding, and restraint has a breaking point. Right now, American military commanders are not just preparing responses, they are preparing options that go beyond anything used against Iran in recent memory. Options that could strike not just proxy forces, but assets inside Iran itself, Revolutionary Guard facilities, weapons storage, command infrastructure. If those options get activated, the world enters territory it has not seen before. A direct military confrontation between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Not through proxies, not through shadows, face to face. The new supreme leader wanted the world to know his name. He wanted power, fear, and respect. From the moment he took his seat, he got all three. But power comes with consequences. And the consequences of what has been set in motion are only beginning to reveal themselves. The Middle East is holding its breath. The world is watching. And this story is far, very far from over. If this channel delivered the truth today in a way that no one else did, then subscribe right now. Share this with someone who needs to understand what is really happening in the world. And stay close, because the next chapter of this story is coming, and it will be even bigger than this one.